Let us cast our minds forward to the journey of Artemis II. This mission carries 4 astronauts further into the solar system than humanity has ventured in over half a century. We will not focus on the intricate machinery or the loud mechanics tonight. Instead, we will simply look through the small windows of the Orion spacecraft. We will observe the quiet, shifting views that will slowly present themselves to the crew. Close your eyes and imagine the quiet expanse of the deep dark. The first profound sight is the slow, silent retreat of Earth. After the violent push of the rocket engine ceases, the spacecraft slips into a quiet glide. Looking back through the reinforced glass, the crew will see their home planet begin to pull away. It does not disappear quickly. Over several days, it transitions from a massive, overwhelming globe filling the entire window to a smaller, brilliant sphere suspended in absolute blackness. The visual shift is slow and deeply humbling. From this new vantage point, the Earth appears almost fragile. The swirling white clouds of massive weather systems are clearly visible against the deep blue of the oceans. The brown and green continents are painted with absolute clarity. There is no atmospheric haze to blur the edges of the continents. The planet shines with a stark, cold brilliance. The astronauts can see the thin, delicate blue line of the atmosphere clinging to the curvature of the world, protecting all known life. As Earth grows smaller, the true nature of the void becomes apparent. Between our planet and the Moon lies a vast, empty stretch of space. The windows of the capsule will reveal no passing landmarks, no clouds, and no immediate sense of speed. There is only a deep, uninterrupted darkness. This is cislunar space. It is a quiet desert of zero gravity. The only visual anchor is the pale, unchanging light of the distant sun, casting stark, permanent shadows across the silver hull of the ship. In this deep darkness, the stars will appear entirely different than they do from the ground. On Earth, our thick atmosphere scatters light, making the stars twinkle and hiding the fainter ones. In the pure vacuum of space, this atmospheric interference is completely gone. The astronauts will see a sky completely saturated with points of light. The stars will not blink, they will shine with a steady, piercing brightness. The dusty band of the Milky Way will stretch clearly across the dark. The sun itself presents a completely different visual reality. Without an atmosphere to diffuse its rays, the sun is not a warm, glowing orb. It is a blindingly intense, pure white point of light. Looking anywhere near it would instantly overwhelm the eyes. Its light cuts through the darkness in straight, harsh lines. The areas of the spacecraft illuminated by the sun are glaringly bright, while the areas in shadow are plunged into absolute, inky black. There is no soft twilight here. 4 days, the spacecraft continues its quiet translunar coast. Slowly, a new shape begins to dominate the forward view. The Moon, usually a small silver disk in our night sky, begins to grow massive. As Orion approaches, the familiar dark patches, called Maria, resolve into vast, ancient lava plains. The bright highlands reveal themselves to be incredibly rugged terrain. The crew is approaching a silent, dead world, preserved perfectly in the cold vacuum for billions of years. As they draw closer, the sheer scale of the lunar craters becomes visually overwhelming. The familiar craters like Tycho and Copernicus are no longer simple spots. They are deep, terraced bowls with towering central peaks. The astronauts will see the stark contrast between the blindingly bright lunar surface and the pitch-black shadows cast by the crater rims. There is no air to soften the edges or scatter the light. Every mountain and valley is carved in absolute, striking detail. One of the most striking visual features is the terminator line. This is the sharp boundary between lunar day and lunar night. Because there is no atmosphere to create a gradual dawn or dusk, the transition is abrupt. Along this line, the sun sits low on the horizon, casting incredibly long, jagged shadows across the grey dust. These shadows stretch 4 miles, highlighting the rough, cratered texture of the surface in a dramatic display of light and absolute dark. The most profound visual shift occurs as the spacecraft swings around the Moon. They will enter the lunar shadow, crossing over to the far side. This is a region perpetually hidden from the view of Earth. Here, the landscape is violently scarred, completely saturated with overlapping craters. There are very few smooth lava plains here. The crew will fly over this ancient, battered terrain in absolute silence. The grey rock will scroll slowly beneath them, an untouched cosmic record. While passing behind the Moon, the spacecraft may be plunged into true, absolute darkness. If they pass through the Moon's shadow, the Sun will be completely eclipsed. The only illumination will be the pale starlight reflecting off the grey surface below. It is a profound, isolating dark. The Earth is blocked from view. The Sun is hidden, and the crew is entirely enveloped by the shadow of the massive sphere of rock. It is perhaps the quietest, most secluded vantage point imaginable. As Orion continues its long arc, it will eventually emerge from the far side. From the stark darkness of the lunar horizon, a brilliant sliver of blue and white will slowly begin to rise. This is the Earth. It is a striking visual paradox. The dead, grey, silent landscape of the Moon sits heavily in the foreground. Rising behind it is the only known harbour of life in the universe, looking incredibly fragile against the immense dark. It is a quiet, deeply humbling view of our home. The laws of orbital mechanics dictate their path. The gravity of the Moon acts as a slingshot, bending the trajectory of the spacecraft and hurling it smoothly back toward Earth. The Moon begins to slowly shrink in the rear window, returning to its familiar state as a distant silver companion. The journey back brings the Earth steadily forward again. 4 days, the crew will simply watch their home planet grow steadily larger in the forward window, a beacon in the night. As the days pass on the return journey, the visual details of Earth slowly come back into focus. The vast blue expanse of the Pacific Ocean will rotate into view. The swirling white weather systems will begin to resolve into distinct spiral storms. The brown and green continents will slowly emerge from the blue. The overwhelming black void is gradually replaced by the comforting, familiar curve of the bright blue horizon. It is a slow descent back into the warm embrace of our atmosphere. The quiet coast eventually gives way to the visual intensity of reentry. As the capsule reaches the very upper edges of the atmosphere, it is traveling at immense speeds. The friction of the thin air begins to heat the heat shield. Through the small windows, the deep black of space is suddenly replaced by a glowing light. It starts as a faint pink hue, a visual manifestation of the kinetic energy being violently bled away. The quiet dark is replaced by the colors of friction. The pink hue quickly intensifies into a blindingly bright orange and yellow plasma. The capsule is enveloped in a teardrop of superheated gas. The astronauts will watch this plasma dance directly outside their thick windows. It is a silent, contained firestorm, safely separated from the crew by the ablation of the heat shield. The visual intensity is stark, a dramatic contrast to the still, cold days spent drifting through the void. It is the final, fiery gate back to the surface. Finally, the plasma dissipates. The sky outside the window transitions back to a familiar, comforting blue. The thick atmosphere slows the capsule, and massive parachutes deploy, blooming like white flowers against the sky. The final visual of the journey is the rushing approach of the blue ocean waters. With a sudden splash, the journey ends. The windows are covered in water droplets, blurring the sunlight. The quiet of deep space has been traded for the gentle bobbing of the sea. These are the quiet sights that await the crew of Artemis II. They will observe the mechanics of the solar system just through data, but through their own windows. It is a slow, visual journey through the harsh beauty of deep space. Let these images linger in your mind tonight. The steady stars, the scarred grey moon, and the small, bright Earth. Let the quiet reality of this immense voyage settle over you, and allow the vastness of space to carry you gently into a deep sleep.